This is Lee showing you how to build and laminate a Dodo Delta. If you look at this plane, it's an 18-inch wide and 12 inches long, and I've got it laminated and colored tape on it to help it be visible at different angles in the sky. We're going to start by cleaning the foam to make it so it will stick with laminate. We're going to rub the foam against each other and get the small cut fibers off. Then we're going to glue it with a low temperature hot glue. We're going to do the hinge starting early underneath the tape and using 1 inch wide bidirectional tape. We're going to put tape on the hinge line and along the leading edge of the plane. If we're trying to keep the weight really light, we keep the tape amount way down. But this plane, we're not going for the 250 grams, we're just building it strong for combat. So I'm reinforcing the nose with the reinforced bidirectional tape. But I'm not putting that behind 4 inches, which is the center of gravity point. Now we're going to do the same on the bottom of the plane. We're going to cut out the motor slot, and we'll reinforce this with tape as we have finished the cut. The laminate in the kit is 1 1/4 inches, so that's why we cut that way. We're using a 2204 1800 kV motor on this particular plane. We're now going to glue 2 layers of laminate into the plane. Two layers give you something to base your screws on. Get a good grip. Make sure that it's square. You want the motor pointing straight forward, no up or down. And here's where we tie that laminate in with a strap of the reinforced tape across the motor mount. Now on the top, we're going to actually laminate the elevons and the body of the wing at the same time. Then we're going to wrap the laminate down around the back corner so that it seals and strengthens the elevon. This will mean that we've got 2 layers, in some cases almost 4 layers on the elevons as we wrap it like this. Then we go around and just finish sealing the laminate. The iron right now is set at 180 degrees. I do that with an ultraviolet thermometer, and then I'm just wrapping this around. I could have saved a little weight by trimming this leading edge down, but I'm trying to keep the plane strong. Putting the tape on the hinge line means it won't tear. It's one of the strongest hinges I've ever seen. And then you just have to, little by little, work the laminate through. You should have all of your extreme tape, any of that tape covered, because it is UV light sensitive. Now we're going to put the laminate on the bottom of the plane. We're going to just iron it back to the elevons, but not on the elevons, because we're going to fold the elevon down and put the laminate through the hinge line. After you've finished your initial ironing with 180 degrees, we turn the iron to 220 and do a final shrink of the laminate. Now here's where we fold the elevons down and iron the edge, which makes it so it's still flexible but seals it all into a single structure. Now, here's where I'm showing that the iron has 2 marks on it. I've actually set it on the iron that one is 180 degrees and the other is 220. Now we're going to take a razor blade and split the one elevon into 2 And then just do a little ironing there to separate them a bit more. We're going to drill holes for the motor. And remember, your motor usually has a shaft poking out the back, and you have to make sure that you have a place for that shaft to turn that's not going to cause drag on the motor. That's that point right there. Set up your radio, find your receiver, test your servos. And then I've also drawn out where I want to install the radio. You can see the battery slot. And this is my radio slot that I like to use on all the planes. In this particular plane, that will contain the receiver and the speed control, and the battery will be at the front. Battery is back 2 inches. Put the radio back at 4 inches, which is your center of gravity. I learned a long time ago a soldering iron makes a great cutter, and if you undo the little screw on the new soldering iron, you can pull the post out and make it a lot longer and do a deeper cut with it. This is one of my most frequent used building tools. It cuts clean and it actually makes a rigid cut. Now that's not deep enough for the battery. I'll just take it and melt it a little deeper until the battery fits. And I use 2 different shapes of batteries. They just 2 different brands or different shapes. We're going to do the same now with a radio, and you just press that speed control and receiver right into the wing. The wires will be hid in the same slot. So, just to show you, here's the receiver, the micro receiver, and 12 amp speed control. And just making sure everything fits. Now, the servos, I'm using MG90s here. On the other Dodo builds, I have used micro 5-gram servos, but I ran out of them, so we're putting MG90s here. You want the servo so that the main body of the servo is even with the top of the wing. You can see I'm just using my infamous cutter here to put those servos into the wing. And I actually go back and trim it a little bit more so they sit a bit deeper by trimming for the ends of the servos. And you can see there's all those wires. Bingo, they're gone. And then just put glue around the top of the servo. And the reason only around the top is if you ever break a servo, you just take an X-Acto knife, cut around it, pull it out, stick a new servo in. Push rods, I have them 2 holes out from the center of the servo. This plane doesn't need much movement in the elevons. The horn, I come straight back and I punch a hole with the soldering iron so that glue can flow. And if you also notice in the horn, I drill a hole through so that glue can flow through the horn down inside the wing. I think I show you here in just a second. On the back of the wing, I open up the laminate just a little bit so I'm not trying to make a glue joint to the laminate because it will peel loose. So now I've glued the bottom already. I forgot to show that in the video, but on the top, glue it down and make sure there's adequate glue. Now we're going to install the easy connectors, slide it up the rod, poke it through the top hole, crimp it in with pliers. Now we're going to put the rudder on, vertical stab, whatever you want to call it. You've got to get through the laminate again, so I just take the soldering iron, make a row of holes that will fill with glue then to the foam. Not very deep. I don't want to add a lot of weight with all this glue, but it's there. And I'm having trouble with my glue stick. Then put a little bit on the fin and just poke it down, and it will grab right to that wing and really stick well. Little extra dab just to smooth it out. But once again, be careful on adding weight. Now going in and adding color. I like to use just colored packing tape. It's quick, it's replaceable, it's repairable, and it's very bright colors. I like this better than painting. I've had times when I do repairs, I'll just peel the tape off, do the repair, put the tape back down, and it looks brand new. So I did the top and the bottom very different so that I could see in a roll whether I'm looking at the top or the bottom. I've actually already changed the yellow tape out for red tape, which helped. The total weight on this plane came out just under 300 grams. I'm using that 2204 1800 kV quad motor, which seems to pull it along fairly well. I use a 7.6 prop that I cut to 5.5 inches. Use a 12 amp speed control. I have used bigger than that, up to 20 amps. MG90 servos. I have a Spectrum micro receiver that I'm using, and this plane is fine with 450 milliamp 3S LiPo battery. I did have to add 1.5 ounces of lead in the nose to get the CG right. The E-tape is a bidirectional tape by Scotch. I cut it to 1 inch or 2 inches wide, or by the 1 and 2 inch rolls. I use a hot gun set for low temperature. High temperature will actually overmelt the foam. Your soldering iron tips, which I showed in the video, can be extended to make the deeper cuts and make it easier to work with. Thank you for watching, and happy flying. Hope you enjoyed the plane.